ceremony, ritual, and psychological development. The contribution of sensory perception, sensory manipulation. Think of a dark club with flashing lights, loud music, heavy bass, attractive people, and drinks or substances that contribute to the alteration of the mind, sensory perception. I think of hypnosis. I don't know if I've already said this before, but as a child, I used to think of hypnosis as the black and white twirling yo yo that you follow as it swings from left to right until the individual who is performing the hypnosis upon you has control. But I have a new perception of hypnosis, and it is a consequence of, a continuation of, a reflection of sensual experience, or what I would want to call ceremony and ritual. When you think of a ceremony, you could think of a wedding, where there are steps to follow, a graduation, you know, um, there's a focus point, there's a pattern, there's curated sounds and sights that induce a perception and an emotional response. Ceremony. I cannot say with too much clarity the distinction between ceremony and ritual. I do view them as synonymous, but to some extent, I also view them as being their own distinct word. But you know, the ritual, maybe the ceremony is a celebration, and the ritual is the step of preparation for something that will continue to occur. How I choose to define these two or distinguish these two may be irrelevant from the point, but what is important is the psychological impact, or what in this moment I want to call the intellectual impact. And I want to relate it to the light that we follow, or if you will tolerate it, the God that you serve. You know, what happens to the mind when you walk away from the ritual and the ceremony? What then are you motivated to do? If you find yourself in a room of flashing lights, loud music, whatever other type of influences may be there, who are you when you leave? How does your life continue to unfold? I think of sporting events where maybe a basketball player, boxer, football player will play for themselves music or talk, but sound regardless of the type, to contribute to the ritual and the ceremony to enhance their performance, to put themselves in the headspace they need to be in to go out into the world and onto the stage to give action to uh, the next thing. So when we live our day-to-day life, what is the goal? Do we have an end goal? Is the goal only to relive the ritual? Are we only chasing the emotional experience of the ritual? Or does it have an ending? Does it have a goal to accomplish? Is there something to achieve? Is there a blueprint for a build? I think that over time, if you live long enough, you will experience a variety of different types of events, concerts, movies, video games, other social interactions, loss of loved ones, loss of job, many highs and lows. And regardless of, like, let's say if you go to a concert, no matter how good or bad it is, the concert will end. And there's going to be something else that follows. The movie is over. The video game, you beat it. The, the championship game is won or lost. But in life, there comes a point where the base is not quite enough. The lights that flash, you've learned their pattern. Maybe at first they were too spontaneous, and the spontaneity of the flashing lights is what hypnotized you. But what at first appeared to be somewhat chaotic now appears to be organized. And the psychological impact has adjusted in a way that you can be full now, but maybe not full forever. You can have a salad, you can have a pizza, but you'll be hungry later. And that ritual, that ceremony will need to happen again to get you to the next checkpoint. But what if the previous ceremony is no longer acceptable? The previous ritual is no longer acceptable. I think that that will be a reflection of where you are mentally and who you have grown into. I'm not sure that it will make any sense, but straight and narrow is the path, few will walk it. To me, the way I interpret that is playtime comes to an end. Eventually, we got to shift our priorities. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they're supposed to be. I am not the leader. But there comes a time where our life depends on a certain comprehension, a certain wisdom that I would say results from, that we get from ceremony and ritual. Maybe that ceremony, maybe that ritual in this context, assuming that a ritual doesn't have to happen all the time, could be you got fired, or something happened that forced you into a thought process where you had to think, you were confronted with a situation that you needed to solve. The level of thought gets deeper. Now you need something greater than flashing lights, loud sounds, heavy bass. You need something that the previous ritual could not provide to you. But what if you never make it past the old rituals? What if you are in a repetitive cycle of same old, same old? You continue to be seduced by the old way of thinking, and you cannot comprehend the message required to ascend to the next step in life. There's a part of me that wants to say, well, do you have to ascend? And I do think that that's a good question. But I also think that the answer is yes. Because life will make you ascend. I think about 20 years ago when I was 17 and what my perspective on the world was and what my daily habits were like and what those daily habits, how they impressed upon my psyche, and how that then contributed to my day-to-day actions. Because the seeds that you plant grow the trees that will produce the fruit that you consume for your growth. As always, I can't stay on here too much longer for this video, but a reflection of ceremony and ritual and its impact on our psychological development, which leads to our overall spirituality. And I define spirituality as that which you find when you sincerely begin to ask why. Until the next video.